Positive Guru, positiveguru.com. As always, glad to have you along on this journey into the world of spirituality, metaphysics, and meditation. I was talking with one of my oldest son either yesterday or day before, and we were talking about interviews and so forth. And at one time, I found something. I said something I thought was kind of funny. I don't know. We were just laughing and joking. Uh, and I was telling him, yeah, I can imagine if I was going for an interview, which I would never do because I've always been self-employed for the bulk of my life. But I said, yeah, I could just imagine sitting in an interview and giving all of these qualifications that the interviewer does not want, but basically explain that I overcame certain things. So I'll say, I'll be sitting up in an interview yeah, do you know I was the first one to swim across the lake at camp? And basically, I guess the interviewer is thinking like, what does this have to do with this job? I said, well, I was the first one to make it. That was a big deal. I swam all the way to Snake Island. No one in the history of the camp had ever done that before. And I was naming all these things that didn't make sense to, uh, I would think would make sense to the interviewer to have happen. I was like, I stole so and so's girlfriend. He was one of the most popular guys in the school. It was 4,000 people in that school. I wasn't popular as him, but still, I won out. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't steal his girlfriend, even though that's what he says when he runs into me. Actually, I ended up with the same girl later on. But it was still a big deal to me that she chose me when I wasn't nearly as popular and whatnot. And I guess that bothered him at the time. And over the years, maybe not over the years, but I guess he thinks back on it. But I was thinking about all these different things that I would be naming that were a big deal to me, but maybe would not be a big deal to the interviewer. And I was like, man, me and my friend, we DJ'd the baddest party ever made. The party was packed with people. And we blew that sucker out. And we blew it out so much. It was a DJ contest. The other more established DJs didn't even want to DJ. They didn't want to come up there because we blew that sucker out. We had the crowd going. Even when someone kicked the chord and the music stopped, they were still dancing the whole time. And like I said, the interviewer I just pictured the interviewer coming out like, what was that about? But in the process of the interview, I was supposedly to tell him, I supposedly would have told him, the interviewer, that, hey, this shows that I can go from here to over here. I can adapt. I came into this situation when we were the underdogs. We didn't have the best music. We didn't have the this. We didn't have the that. But we still blew everybody out. We only had that much of the record to play, but that kept the people dancing until we switched over to the other record. It's like, what? And DJs are coming over like, what song is that? And I was telling my son at the time that we have to do that for ourselves in life when we come up to situations and we're like, man, I don't know if I'm able to do this. This is going to be tough. We have to remind ourselves of our accomplishments. I was reminding him, I was like, man, I still remember when you were at Job Corps. Now, some people would look at me like, Job Corps, that's not something that you want to aspire to. And hey, he ended up going to Job Corps. It wasn't my decision. It was his mom's decision. And I didn't have biological rights. We were married. He was my stepson. But I see him as my son. But when he went in, I told him, I was like, man, when you get in there, make the best of this thing. I mean, just thrive within there. And that's what he did. He thrived in there. We went to the graduation. He was popular. Everybody was just coming up to him, hey, Juntao. Everybody's calling him Juntao from this movie, I guess, because he was half Asian, so and he looked very Asian, so they were calling him Juntao. But he said that was a name of reverence. They they all liked him, and you could tell. And he told me that he actually had a business while he was at Job Corps. So he's like 18, 19 years old. He started his own business within the place. Now, he shipped away from home in this place that he at first doesn't want to be, but he ends up developing a business. His business was creating screensavers on cell phones. I believe that's what it was. He was real good at it. So people would actually pay him to do it. And he had a business and a clientele and was thriving with it. But I'm like, man, you were young and you created your own business. You went into that atmosphere and you thrived. And then you came out and made a good life for yourself. That's a big deal. A lot of times we have to remind ourselves of these big deals, these big accomplishments that we've made, especially when we come up to something that looks like, oh man, can I accomplish this one? I just don't know. We have to remind ourselves. I say we make a list of our accomplishments. And it might be an accomplishment that maybe one person doesn't think, it doesn't matter whether it's a big deal to someone else. You know that you came from over here to over here. You may have came in that setting not knowing how you were going to make it, how you were going to do it, but yet you thrived. And when you remind yourself of this, and when you have your list of the various accomplishments and you look at that, it prepares you for the next thing. It gives you confidence to be able to move into the next place. And if you look at it often, it gives you a greater sense of self-worth. And it lets you know that there's not much you cannot do. It changes how you move into the world. I suggest that we all do this. It's an amazing thing. I had asked my wife, and she this morning when I was leaving out, I said, can you think of something that was like a big accomplishment or something that just made you special? She said, special, what do you mean? I said, well, make you, that you just look back and, hey, I'm proud of that. And I said, well, just let me know if you come up with it, but by the time I come back to you. I came back to her right before I left out. She said, I forgot, I didn't even think of anything. Well, I called her on the way here. And I said, well, just think of something. And I named something. She said, oh yeah, that's true. She says, well, one is that I'm a good mother. I did good with my kids. I said, that's big. That's huge. She was a mother at, I think, 19. 19. You still feel like you're a kid yourself. And I'm sure that was a scary thing. But she has become a great mom, a great a great grandmother now. I mean, she's phenomenal. And that's something big. That's something to be proud of. And that's something I'm sure at the time she was afraid, how am I going to do this? These are the things, these accomplishments, these are the things we're to look at. Because if not, too often we're looking at the things that maybe we felt like we did not make it as. But no, you look at the things that you did. Sometimes you look at them and say, what did I do right in that situation? Other times, just knowing you did it prepares you and makes you ready for the next time. Your subconscious mind already is getting you ready to overcome the next challenges. And life is full of challenges. If not, you need to go find one. You need to find an adventure. And it's got to be bigger than where you think you are right now. Most often they'll come if we're ready for them, if we're ready to meet it, greet it, and beat it, as my teacher, Mr. Ambrister, would say. But the list, I mean, it helps. One of the things that I would suggest that one of my sons, my middle son, one of the things I would suggest to him is that, man, you created the work of art. I've told him this. You created the work of art that everybody in the program was making a big deal about. And this was at the program you were in was at an art college. You have a knack for this. You have a talent for this. And the thing was, at the time, he was the one who was new in the program. His sisters had been in the program. They were known to be more artsy and create nice works of art. He wasn't known that way. But somewhere within there, his mind shifted to being, I am an artist. And then somewhere in that process, he created this incredible self-portrait. And it was so good that they decided to have it on the brochure of the exhibit at the art college. And the guy over the program, he was saying, man, the dignitaries and stuff, they have it right outside their office over at College for Creative Studies. They have his picture right there, and it was an incredible thing. And I was telling him, man, you have to remind yourself of this. I've been telling him that he should be doing art even as a hobby today, because there's a certain knack and a certain talent. But these are the things we are to remind ourselves of. We all have those things that we have done, and those things that have made us special. And when we remind ourselves of these things, this is when we're able to propel ourselves to the further places. As I was thinking about this next journey I have to make, and even some changes I want to add to my business to bring in much more revenue. We're doing good now, but I want to do much more revenue. And I said, man, can I do that quickly? And then I thought back, I looking at my list. Now, a lot of times the list is in my head. I'm like, what am I talking about? I went 1 year from having a gutter and window cleaning business, which I'm very proud of, because I've been able to live a good life off of it. When people tell me that, some people say, well, how are you going to do that? Ain't no such thing, which it wasn't back, at least gutter cleaning business. It wasn't back then. There were people that sometimes did it. But whatever the case was, I had to move 1 year into doing something totally different, because we didn't get a fall. It just came right into winter. And the fall is the time in which all the money comes in. It didn't happen. So I had to go to God. Like, what am I going to do? Through a series of events, it came to me that we need to do roof snow removal and ice dam work. I wasn't an expert at this, but I taught myself. I looked at videos, the whole nine, figured out how to do it. Within a couple weeks, we were making the kind of money that I would make in the fall season with the gutter cleaning business. In the fall season, the money rolls in. It was an incredible thing. The guys were loving it. We had 2 crews. The crews were loving it. The guys were loving it. And money was coming in, and I was paying the guys double. And it was just a wonderful thing. And I reminded myself, I said, man, I needed to add something to my business. And within a couple of weeks, I was making some really good money. And I was thinking about it because there's something I want to add to my business now. And sometimes I say, man, can I do that and still be successful with it the way I want to be? And I'm reminded, not only can I do it, I can do it in a short period of time. But that's because I got my list. Make your list of the things that are great about you, your accomplishments, your skills, whether you're a funny person, whether you're whatever it is, a good arguer, whatever it is, make that list. You'll be surprised if you look at it regularly how it will profit in your world. I have so much more I want to talk about this. I'll say this last little thing. A lot of times here lately, I have things that I want to do that are more in the spiritual, metaphysical realm. Some things that if I mentioned, be like, man, that's crazy. You really think that you'll be able to do that? And I remind myself of the spiritual accomplishments I've made, things that I've seen within on the spiritual planes. And then I remind myself of things that sound crazy when I say it, but I say, remember, you made it stop raining twice. Now that's a whole different story if I go into it, but it was an incredible experience. But I remind myself as I get ready to think about being able to do some of these other things that are impossible, that as I get in my spiritual place, these things will happen unconsciously to my consciousness. I will think of something and it will just show up. Because I've had it happen this time and I've had it happen that time. I write down those kind of things too. I write down ways in which God has been connected with me and shown up in my world. Write your list today. Your positive list. Craig Kimbrough, Positive Guru. Until next time, peace and blessings to you all.